Hey everybody, it's Galmadex and welcome to the Ultimate Showdown. This is another completely free event on Magic Arena, and the prizes are just for getting one win in this 100% free event. You don't have to bring a deck or anything. You'll get 1,000 experience. This is a really cool event idea. It's an Omniscience event, so everything you cast gets cast for free. You also get 1 mana of each color each turn for any activated abilities on your cards. But the cool thing about this event is it's focused around the 4 player types. If you haven't heard of those before, those are the primary categories of people who like to play Magic the Gathering and the different ways they like to play the game. So Timmy over here is the power gamer. Timmy is a player who likes playing really big spells, primarily well known for liking to play gigantic creatures. So Timmy is what a lot of players are when they first start the game. They like playing their green-red deck and just ramping up into some gigantic dinosaurs and trying to kill the opponent with those. Crawworm is like the classic Timmy card, so Timmy just likes big, powerful, splashy spells. Vorthos is the flavor and lore enthusiast. Vorthos really likes the story of the game, likes playing decks that are pretty flavorful and tied to different characters or storylines that they like. So the Vorthos deck here is a great example of a Vorthos deck. It's a Nicol Bolas themed deck, so obviously I'm in love with that deck. But it includes a ton of cards that aren't in there necessarily because they're particularly powerful, but because they're very flavorful. You know, like if you're playing the Bolas deck, you've got to play Bolas's Citadel, Bolas's Augur of Bolas, Disciple of Bolas, stuff like that. So that is what a Vorthos player is. Spike is the tournament grinder. Spike is the very competitive player that likes playing in all the arena opens, tries to get to the Pro Tour, goes to Grand Prix, stuff like that. Spike is the player that really likes competitive Magic and trying to play at their highest level. So Spike's deck is going to be a deck full of cards that have seen competitive play. So Spike's deck has Teferi, Llanowar Elves, Embercleave. All of these decks are 5 colors because they're omniscient, so you can cast everything for free, but they are all very much themed around the different archetypes. So even though Spike, the tournament grinder deck, is playing a bunch of competitive cards, a bunch of some of the strongest cards in tournament play, I doubt it's going to be the 100% strongest deck because they tried to balance it out by putting some cards in there that were very, very, very good in tournaments, but probably aren't very good in this mode, like Llanowar Elves, you know. And then Johnny, combo player, is the final type of player. That's a player that likes finding combos and synergies, intricate ways that you can piece multiple cards together to do something that feels a little like cheating. Johnny likes to tinker around and find unique ways to use cards. So Johnny's deck is what we're going to start with today, but I am going to get a win with each deck, and Johnny's deck is the hardest to explain because Johnny's deck is just a pile of stuff that some cards work with other cards, which work with different cards. Not every card works perfectly with every other card in the deck, but there are plenty of little synergies that you'll find as you're playing in the game. So the most upfront synergies that are the easiest to talk about are proliferate synergies with like inexorable tide here. So as you're casting spells, you're proliferating. Of course, in this mode, everything that you're casting is free. So with Inexorable Tide and all of your energy counters, you can proliferate energy counters onto all your stuff. With your +1/+1 counters, you can proliferate more +1/+1 counters onto stuff as you're casting spells. You can proliferate poison counters onto your opponent. Johnny also has a Storm sub-theme. Because this is an Omniscience event, you're casting everything for free, so anything that you have that lets you return something to your hand will let you just cast another spell that turn for free. So like Rescuer Sphinx returns something to your hand, Geist Wave returns one of your cards to your hand and draws you a card. So a lot of ways like those, and Paradoxical Outcome to pick up a bunch of your spells and recast them again to try to storm off. Storming off means casting just a bunch of spells in one turn for a large effect. It's named after the storm mechanic that you can see on Mind's Desire. So Mind's Desire is the main Storm win condition, but there's more than just that. So if you have a Mind's Desire in hand, the idea is that you just try to combo off with a bunch of card draw spells and a bunch of bounce spells, and then finish it off with Mind's Desire to cast a ton more cards off the top of your library for free, because when you cast Mind's Desire, you copy it for each spell cast before it this turn, so you get to cast a tremendous amount of copies of this card. The other Storm win condition, of course, is Aetherflux Reservoir. This you cast before you start casting all your other spells, and then you will gain 1 life for each spell you've cast this turn every time you cast a spell. So spell number 2, you gain 1 life. Spell number 3, you gain 2 life. Spell number 4, you gain 3 life, and it just raises from there so that you get to that 50 life pretty quickly if you can start storming off, and then of course pay 50 life, shoot your opponent in the face for 50. So this will be a really interesting deck. Let's see how it pans out. All right, here we are to start it off. I am going to keep this hand. Again, I have no idea what is and isn't a good hand, especially in this deck that's all over the place, but it looks like it could do some things here. Demonic Pact, of course, will lose the game if we don't win the game within 4 turns, but I don't expect the games in this format are going to go very long, especially when my opponent plays Approach of the Second Sun turn 1. So that could be very bad for me. And now that makes my Dreadhound terrible, because if I mill them 3 cards, they're going to be 3 cards closer to the Approach of the Second Sun, which if they cast again, they'll immediately win. What does this do? At the beginning of your end step, if you lost 2 or more life, get a 2/2 zombie. If I get all 3 of these cards, I get an 8/8. I have 2 of them already, Book of Vile Darkness and Eye of Vecna. Okay, let's Eye of Vecna first, see what we draw. Rafter Demon. Each opponent discards a card. That's only if I spectacle it. Oops. Still probably play it though, but I'm not going to play this Dreadhound. And I'll just pass the turn. And then thanks to losing life from the Eye of Vecna, the Book of Vile Darkness gives us a 2/2 zombie, and this next turn I get to spend 2 mana from my emblem to use the Eye of Vecna ability and draw an additional card, lose 2 more life, get another zombie in that end step. So the Eye of Vecna and the Book of Vile Darkness, kind of a pretty Johnny thing here, very much comboing off. So this deck has a decent amount of ways to return cards from your board to hand, so we won't necessarily lose the game in 4 turns to this Demonic Pact, but I am playing it under that assumption that that is a thing that could happen. I think it is strong enough, and Omniscience events tend to go fast enough, especially again with opponent having Approach in their deck anyway. That's I should just drop it out. There's Hour of Devastation, God Eternal Aronis. Oh, and the Planar Bridge. If they activate Planar Bridge, though, they don't get to draw their Approach the Second Sun, so they can't really Planar Bridge. But it also costs 8 mana, so they literally just can't use it at all. It's just in there for flavor. Apparently I accidentally put a stop at the start of my turn. Okay, whenever I get an energy, put a ++1 counter on a creature I control, then I start playing all these energy cards. That sounds like a combo engine, which is what the Johnny deck should be doing. Draw a card, I get a +1/+1 counter on Rogue Refiner. Now I Whirler Virtuoso, get a +1/+1 counter on the Virtuoso. Now I have 5 energy, so I'm going to create a Thopter. I'm going to use that Thopter to, let's say, draw a card off Ecstatic Awakener. Oh, I've already used the mana? Oh yeah, for Eye of Vecna I already used it, so I can't draw a card off Awakener right now. Then I guess I'll Gorman to get my opponent to sack a God Eternal Aronis. And we'll draw the card off Awakener next turn, I suppose. And then we pass. So they chose not to put God Eternal back into their library because it would tuck Approach farther away. And they're going to scoop them up. We've got enough things on the board. We got enough energy there to put enough counters on the board that we just have a pretty lethal board state, and they didn't draw into another Wrath effect, another board wipe. So we are going to win the game real quick there. As you expect to do in Omniscience, you're going to win or lose very, very quickly, which is why Demonic Pact actually pretty sweet in this format. And there is the 1,000 experience prize you get out of the event for free. But I am not done with the event. We're going to move on to the next deck in the row, Spike Tournament Grinder. So as I said before, this is a deck full of cards that you would have seen at the Pro Tour, at top competitive constructed play, from just Magic's history, really, all throughout Magic's history. Like the classics like Lightning Bolt that has been at tournament tables since the game's inception. Swords to Plowshares, another absolute classic. But then you have the really, really modern cards like Alrund's Epiphany that did a lot of work recently in competitive events. Embercleave, another one that's a little bit before the Alrund's Epiphany. But this is just a really cool deck for players that like to play competitively throughout the game's history, or players that have watched a lot of competitive Magic from throughout the game's history, because it really is just kind of the greatest hits of constructed decks throughout the years, at least out of the cards that are on Arena, which is very, very cool. So again, probably not going to be the number one strongest of these decks, at least not by like a massively insane margin, because it is just a bunch of cards that have seen a lot of competitive play. They're not put together with like a very cohesive strategy in mind. That way, you know, you have the really good control cards like Teferi, but then the really good aggro cards like Embercleave. So a little all over the place, like all the decks are a little bit. But some very, very cool, very memorable cards in this deck. All right, we're on the play here. Llanowar Elves is a really bad draw, but Fable the Mirrorbreaker can discard it to draw a card, so I'll keep this. I've got a Bloodchief's Thirst for interaction as well. Get rid of whatever our opponent's scariest card is here. We'll definitely start with the Fable the Mirrorbreaker. Seems like a very, very good card in Omniscience. Everything that draws cards in this format is incredibly good because you start with a 3-card hand. And it can help dump your weaker cards like Llanowar Elves to find the big win conditions. Ooh, Harvester of Souls is a terrifying start from my opponent. Again, everything that draws cards is ridiculous. And now Harvester of Souls is not going to draw a card because this is a non-token creature dying. But if the Manor Guardian dies, they're not only going to draw a card from Harvester of Souls, but they're going to seek an online card with mana value 2 or less. Alright, I'm happy to see Null Priest without returning anything from Grave. Seems like good value for me. I think I just discard Llanowar Elves. Eska's Chariot seems pretty powerful here. And Bomat Courier is definitely not here. We're going to have to use this Bloodchief's Thirst to kill the Harvester of Souls so they don't end up drawing any cards off of it. And then we'll play the Eska's Chariot. We now have 2 2/2s to block with, and or a 4/4 Chariots. I'm going to keep Courier in hand for now. I don't know if I have any other discard draw, but it's possible. Ooh, Solkanar, another very good card for the format. Especially in that deck where they have the ability to... That unfortunately has Menace, so I'd have to double block with both cats. I can't block with just the Chariot, which is what I'd want to do. And it's crew 4. I don't think I can really block at all here because I want to make duplicates, but then I can't attack it to a 5/5 anyway. This is all around really rough. I guess I just take it all. But yeah, the Solkanar, with the amount of ways that the Johnny deck has to sacrifice cards and bounce cards to hand, there's no downside to this. They're never going to end up putting it on my board. At least most likely. So, Fable the Mirrorbreaker flips. Werewolf Pack Leader hits the board, which can be a 5/3 whenever I want. I could just cash in the Courier for 1 card here. Could also do that with Reflection of Kiki-Jiki, though. That's probably the idea. Get as many creatures out so I know I can block Menace and all of that nonsense. And then maybe in the future I start Kiki-Jikiing Courier or Pack Leader or something to keep drawing cards. What is this? Conjure a card named Demonic Pact onto the battlefield. Wow, that is sick. But it's kind of wild to have alchemy cards and non-alchemy versions of cards in the same event here. That's really interesting. They have the alchemy Graven Archfiend, but we have the non-alchemy Eska's Chariot. Alright, Reflection of Kikijiki's dead, so we don't get to do those synergies. Ledger Shredder. That's actually probably pretty sweet in this format, but I don't have any cards left in hand to use that. I'm going to just cash in the Courier now, I think. Could cash in Courier, and Werewolf Pack Leader would actually trade into something. So if I stack these orders correctly... Or I wouldn't draw a card off Werewolf Pack Leader unless I use the green before I attack, which means I wouldn't have the red floating to use Bowmat Courier after I attack. Yeah, they stack up kind of awkwardly. Because this one I have to make it a 5/3 before I declare the attack, but I can't sack the Courier until after I declare the attack to get the card. So I can't actually attack with both and draw a card and exile hand. To draw 2. Because I'd need to sack Courier before this card triggers. Yeah, that's not going to work. But after an attack is declared. Not going to work. We'll just do this. Just cash in the Courier. Galvanic Iteration. That could be big depending on what we draw into. So we just have to hope that the Johnny player draws really poorly, I guess, and does not... Oh, that is not drawing poorly. Aetherflux Reservoir. Doomblade. I could double Doomblade with Iteration because it has Flashback. Feels pretty nice. Gain a life for each spell they've cast this turn. Yeah. Start comboing off. They are got a lot of card draw in that Johnny deck. Card draw's pretty busted in Omniscience. So it feels like whatever deck has the most card draw is likely to be the one that wins the most. Aetherstorm Rock. Every creature they play comes with additional energy. They're still getting more energy off Aether Chaser. Could double Doomblade right now to kill the rocks so they get less energy. But I feel like I'm going to have to just kill the bigger ones, because what does it do? It gets a counter and taps a thing. River's Rebuke? Okay, yeah, we're just dead then. Johnny got to Johnny. Could kill 2 of their cards right there, but they have way more than enough cards to draw extra cards and shoot us for 50. Even if I killed 2 of them. That was some Omniscience for sure. We're going to be against Vorthos this time around. Another pretty sweet hand. I like the Elder Gargaroth a lot here. Actually, these are pretty weak in Omniscience. Seems like, ironically enough, the Spike deck might be the weakest. Yeah. Yeah, definitely the Spike deck is the weakest. Okay, yeah, we lose. They draw 3 extra cards per turn now. In Omniscience. Yeah. Yeah.
This looks like a fun new toy.
Here we are on the play with a bunch of 2 and 3 mana cards in Omniscience, which is awkward. I guess I should take that free mulligan. Probably a misplay. Just take that free mulligan more aggressively. The Johnny deck doesn't seem to have any board wipes that I've seen. I could be wrong, but I think the plan against Johnny is just slam everything down and hope for the best. And this is the original version of Luminarch Aspirants as well, not the nerfed Alchemy version, which is extra sweet. Alright, Harness Lightning, goodbye Arclight Phoenix. Could get lucky and draw enough instants and sorceries to recast it. Looking through the deck list here. There's very little card draw in this deck. We could get a Mole Drifter and that's about it. It looks like. Oh, Demon Lord Belzenlock. That's also likely to get us pretty badly here. Yeah, they draw 2 extra cards. They're down to 7, though. Because what, they lost half their life to the Scourge of the Skyclaves? But I mean, we're down to 10, so... We just die in the sky. That's a draw against this board. Yeah, that's rough. Yep, we die in the sky. On to game number 4 with the Spike deck. Ooh, we got an Alrund's Epiphany here. That's definitely huge in Omniscience. Don't think we mulligan a hand with Alrund's Epiphany. Opponent's on the play, though. Alrund's Epiphany would be dramatically better if we were on the play, but I think it's still going to be pretty good. Opponent starts with a Demon of Loathing. And that deals combat damage to us. We sack a creature. Hand of Vecna doesn't really do anything in this format because they're just going to have like no cards in hand. Okay. Chain Whirler doesn't really do anything, but it adds more creatures to our board, more potential damage. So I think we play it anyway. Just cast everything and then Epiphany. Lightning Bolt. Only big enough to kill the demon if they block the 4/3, so we'll hope that they do. And even if they don't, at least we get some damage in here. Maybe just kill them off 3 attacks. Okay. Boast our Usher out. And our Phoenix will rekindle. We'll bolt the demon. Pass turn, and maybe that's enough here. They only have 2 cards. Definitely need one of them to be card draw to get out of this. But you can loop card draw pretty easily. Cyclone Summoner is very good here. Now we're down to just an Usher and a Chain Whirler, and they have a 7/7? Alright, I mean that does it. That's the board wipe. Heartless Act is definitely a good draw. I guess I should have waited on that. There's no reason to kill it right now. Just in case they play a better creature next turn, I don't have to kill that until I'm trying to attack through it. Aether Swooper. Alright. Pretty fine by me. Siege Rhino, that's a great card. Absolute banger. Absolute classic. Come on, Siege Rhino, let's do our thing. Drain them for 3, and we have a 4/5 Trampler on board as well. Pretty ridiculous rate on that card, although in Omniscience everything's free, so... Alright, that is going to be the victory for the Spike deck. It's going to take 4 games to get there, but we did get there, which means we're going to be moving on to what I think I'll have the most fun with, which is the Vorthos deck, because I love me a Nicol Bolas deck. Oh wait, no, we're on the Timmy deck. Vorthos is last. Alright, best for last then, I guess. Timmy Power Gamer. We haven't run against anybody playing the Timmy Power Gamer decks. This will be our first experience with the deck here, but as you can see, it's just big old dinosaurs. It's very Timmy. It's got, it's so Timmy that it has 4 copies of Colossal Dreadmaw. It has 1 from each different set that it's printed in on Arena, which is absolutely adorable, absolutely hilarious. Very self-explanatory here. Timmy's like playing gigantic, impactful spells, primarily gigantic, impactful creatures, so it's a dinosaur deck. But it does include a few gigantic non-dinosaur spells like the Magic Mirror here, which shows off that Timmys aren't just about casting big creatures. You could be a Timmy even if you just like casting giant spells like Expropriate or Time Stretch or something like that. If you just like casting really big high impact spells. Ulamog is a gigantic creature, so that fits more firmly into the regular Timmy route. But if you like casting Insurrection to win games, you might be a Timmy. Alright. Here we go. We're on the play. I've got 3 big dinos in hand, whatever. The only board wipe that I've seen so far out of the Vorthos deck is Hour of Devastation, which does 5 damage to everything, so it wouldn't kill my 10/10 Gigantosaurus. So we're just going to get things started and just slam a bunch of dinos down. Sailback has Flash, so I guess I could have played it during their turn just cuz. Wow, this looks bad. That's multiple gods, and God Eternal Catcher gives them a 4/4 every time they cast something else. Our opponent is out Timmying the Timmy deck. And the Locust God lets them draw a card, discard a card every turn to start getting Locusts out. Alright, well, we may be dead. We may be dead. Let's see if we can draw some really big, really impactful stuff. Well, Silverclad Ferocidon does fit into that category. Let's draw a card off the Raptor. Let's do what I can here. Attack with everybody. Probably just die on the crackback, but let's see if we can draw anything off Ripjaw Raptor here, hopefully. We do not draw anything off Ripjaw Raptor. They're just going to let that damage in. And here is our Silverclad Ferocidons. Pretty good if they attack with the first striker. Block the first striker, make them sack something, but I guess they would just sack the Grim Initiate to put another counter on the zombie army with its Amass 1 trigger, making the zombie army larger. Commence the endgame as well, draw 2 additional cards, 2 additional insects. If any of those are creatures, that's more 4/4s. One is a Scarab God. We are incredibly dead. Alright, here we are on the play with a card draw engine turn 1. 2 of them if Atali doesn't die. This is absurd. This is exactly what you want in an Omniscience format. And we're just going to go big. Vivian Reed. Draw a creature out of our top 4 every turn. So we're basically drawing 2 a turn. And one is Ulamog. I'm going to choose the Tarask, though, because Ulamog's really good because you're exiling things right when you play it. Tarask has haste. Alright. Let's see if Johnny has a board wipe. Because Johnny's at 10. Against 27 power and toughness. Johnny does have 2 0/1s, but an 11/11 trample. Get right through that. Rescuer Sphinx picks up the Rite of Belzenlock, gets 2 more 0/1s. Johnny can survive next turn, but barely right now. Embodiment of Agony, there's no cards in grave, so it just dies. Alright, Johnny's going to scoop it up, because next turn we could use Vivian to blow up the Rescuer Sphinx or the Rite of Belzenlock if we want, or just draw a card. I'd probably just draw another card off of Vivian. Then we're attacking with these 3. They go chump, chump, then they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more toughness. If they throw that all under the Titanothrax, they still take 6, go to 4 life, and lose every creature on board. And that would be, in addition to me casting whatever I have on top of my library, plus a card off Vivian, plus a card for both libraries off of Tali. So, game was very over there. Omniscience games tend to be incredibly swingy like that. Game's pretty much over on turn 1, as some of our losses were. So heading on to the final deck, very excited for this one. The Nico Bolas War of the Spark themed deck. This is a deck that's very flavorful to Nico Bolas, the Dragon God. Very flavorful to the War of the Spark, really showing off Nico Bolas's rise on Ravnica, along with his zombie army that he amassed to go and try to despark all of the planeswalkers. Nico Bolas's endgame was to cast the Elder Spell to steal a spark from all the other planeswalkers, so of course that's in here, even though there's only 1 or 2 planeswalkers in the other decks. So there are definitely cards in here that are in here purely for flavor, which is a very Vorthos thing to do, which is really cool. There's also cards like Liliana's Defeat, Chandra's Defeat, that are in here primarily for flavor, but maybe your opponent has a red creature, maybe your opponent has a black creature. Planar Bridge is 100% for flavor, because you cannot activate this in Omniscience unless you have a mana rock on the board, because you just get 1 mana of each color per turn for activated abilities. But the Planar Bridge is what Bolas used to get the zombie army onto Ravnica to try to take over the plane. So Very, very cool stuff here. The Immortal Sun is what Bolas used to lock all of the planeswalkers on the plane and keep them from planeswalking away during the conflict. Super flavorful deck. Very, very excited to play it here. And because Nicol Bolas is such a powerful, splashy, like, just devastatingly strong character in the lore, a lot of Nicol Bolas's cards are very high mana, very impact plays, which means a lot of these cards are quite good on Omniscience. So we'll see how it does as we head into the final games, the Vorthos games. Dark Intimations. That is very good. Get additional counter on Godpharaoh when I play it. This is a snap keep. Godpharaoh is ridiculous as well because we get to draw a card out of our opponent's library and cast it. Or we get to +1 to make them exile 2 cards from their hand. +1 is a better Mind Rot. -4 to kill most creatures. Anything that we target with 7 toughness or less. Alright, Timmy's got a Dreadmaw, Dilophosaur, and a Dreadmaw number 2. This is going to be a bad time for Timmy. I hate to say it. But we're going to play a Nicol Bolas. We're going to play a Liliana. We're going to have each player sack 2 creatures. I'm going to draw 2 cards by doing that. I should have Dark Intimations first. It goes the other way around. I was supposed to play Dark Intimations and then Bolas, not Bolas, then Intimations. Either way, though, now we're going to cast spells out of Timmy's deck against Timmy. Cast Timmy's own Watley. Draw 4 cards, because I've got a white card out too now. Dreadhorde Invasion, Locust God, Tezzeret. Zealot the Godpharaoh is not great, so I'll discard the Zealot to draw 2 off the Honor of the Godpharaoh. We'll play an Overwhelming Splendor on our opponent, so even if they get dinosaurs out, they're just 1/1s. And, I don't control a dinosaur. Watley doesn't do anything. I'll get an Ethereum Cell, I guess. I'll use Watley for nothing. Attack with the Hasting Locust, pass the turn, and Timmy gets to start playing 1/1s. I feel like I'm just bullying a kid today because of Timmy's avatar. Oh, this is gonna be the saddest Raging Swordtooth. No. You genuinely have to feel a little bad after that. I mean, this is ridiculous. Well, that doesn't actually do anything for me.
Smelly, but effective.
Alright, they're gonna scoop them up. I just have way, way, way too many very powerful cards on board for Timmy to ever come back. And Timmy's almost entire deck is just like 11 tramples and stuff, which if Timmy is enchanted with an Overwhelming Splendor are unfortunately for Timmy 1/1s with no abilities. That was an absolutely brutal, devastating way to end the events, but not really much of a more omniscience way to end the event than that. So that is going to end today's event. I definitely recommend hopping into it, picking your favorite deck, unless it's Spike. Spike does not seem great, but every other deck it seems like they could have explosive draws that can win the game immediately. A decent amount of the time. Yeah, definitely hop in. It's completely free. Get your 1,000 experience at the very least. Get your 1 win. And then, yeah, maybe have a fun time with it. So this event was mainly to advertise these, the characters, the player archetypes. They all have, I think, sleeves and avatars in the store now. Yep, add their avatar and sleeve to your collection. So there is that too. If you highly identify with one of the player types and you like their artwork or sleeves a lot, then that is something that's available as well. But that is going to end today's video. If you enjoyed this video and you'd like to see more like it, you can like, comment, and subscribe to let the YouTube algorithm know to send you some more in your recommended feeds. But as always, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again soon for some more Magic Arena.